Hi everyone, glad to hear that at least someone is already on board with my project here, so I won't have much convincing to do. I am Daniel Helm. I'm with Skynet Labs, going to be talking about decentralizing front ends. I'm the developer evangelist at Skynet Labs, and I want to kind of lead off and frame this conversation with a question, which is, should we decentralize front ends? I'm very opinionated about this because I work in decentralized storage day in and day out. But maybe I can say how I understand this question, and it is, are we building permissionless systems if they're centralized at the point of entry? So thinking about how most users are accessing our smart contracts, our decentralized protocols, if they're only doing that through websites hosted at AWS, DigitalOcean, Vercel, Netlify, I don't know. Are we actually building permissionless decentralized systems? Okay, so let's back up a little bit and talk about decentralized storage for folks who aren't aware. It is a core piece of Web3 infrastructure where we can store files, web apps, NFTs, basically anything off-chain in a way that we don't have to trust a single centralized authority. Ideally, we're going to be doing this in environments that are trustless, permissionless, and also censorship resistant, and we're going to be hopefully wrangling the user data and application data away from the likes of, Amazon, Facebook, and Google. So there are projects in the space building towards this. Skynet is one of them. You also probably have heard of IPFS or Arweave. And these are similar projects that also have some differences that in their approach. I'm going to try and do live demo here. I just want to show what it looks like to interact with decentralized storage, because I think people find it really intimidating. But really, what you can do is pull up a site that interacts with decentralized storage, and for the end user, it's just like selecting a file, and it will upload. And what you get back is a link that is instantly available on that portal, but it is also available if I were to go to another one. So fileportal.org is run by a community member, not Skynet Labs, but this file is instantly available across these different websites. Okay, cool. Images might be boring. We're talking about front ends. Let's see what it looks like to deploy a website on decentralized storage. For the developers, this is a build of a Create React app. I can upload it. And because it has an index.html file, the decentralized storage is going to treat it like a website. And so here we have a website fully hosted on Skynet in a decentralized manner. Okay, so that's kind of what interacting with Skynet looks like. And let's keep going with the slides here. Not F11, present. All right, so you might have noticed when you uploaded this file, we got back this crazy looking URL. What this is it's a unique cryptographic identifier for what that file is. You can think of it like a fingerprint for this file. And so we can take that identifier, pass it to any portal, sky.net, fileportal.org, and we will know cryptographically that the file that was originally uploaded is the same one that we downloaded, and the portal didn't mess with it. It never was changed from the time of upload, and there's a kind of security there, right? These files are immutable, which for the non-developers, that just means that basically you can't change that file. That file is kind of set in stone. If you were to change the contents of the file, this fingerprint would change as well. And so, I don't know, we have a lot of guarantees about these things. All right, but we are talking about web apps, not just random files on the internet. So, do we care that much? Does it need to be fully decentralized? Well, some of the reasons that we're looking at the idea of decentralized storage here for web apps is that there are concerns, right? Developers might end up being liable for user actions that happen on their website, even though they are on fully decentralized platforms as the back end. If the front end is still happening through their AWS instance, who knows? In addition to this, we can look at hosting providers and say, as we grow, are they going to agree with our ethos? Are they going to keep hosting these front ends? And as they bring these things down, you are blocking users from the digital assets. Another reason we might want to look at decentralized storage is that currently, in the current paradigm, users are fully unaware when changes happen in the back end of websites and the code. Things can get modified maliciously or by developer teams. and they're kind of invisible to the user, and maybe we don't want to have those trust assumptions. And lastly, looking at decentralized storage for front ends is great because protocol stakeholders might not want to just always do what the developer teams want them to do. We want to have we have an ethos as a blockchain community thinking about forkability, and this is something that, I feel pretty strongly about. We should be able to always have access on our own terms. These are not hypotheticals. We see these playing out in the real world. Front-end attacks are happening. So one instance of this is Uniswap delisting 100 tokens from their front-end interface. If you were using Uniswap at the time to access these tokens, after the update came out, you didn't have access to those tokens through Uniswap. SushiSwap had a front-end attack that put millions of dollars at risk because there was malicious code that was introduced to the front end. 1inch introduced geofencing to try to deter US users from using their product. Again, regulatory uncertainties. Compound introduced a bug that was actually in their smart contracts, but as a way of stopping some users from exploiting that bug, they just disabled the feature on their website. So anyone that was a normal user accessing it couldn't exploit the bug, but everyone else who had a saved copy was still able to. And lastly, we can look at things like DNS hijack attacks, where you see literally just instead of something changing on the website, a whole different website is served. So someone has full control of what might be happening during that attack time. All right, so the stakes are real. Web3 needs decentralized front ends. If you're a DeFi developer, if you're a DeFi user, please start using decentralized front ends. We see some resistance to this, or just maybe laziness around it. So it's useful to look at why do people not decentralize their websites. Well, we might see that not all Web 2 patterns translate into the decentralized context. Decentralized websites do not have the single trusted backend server. And so some of these patterns don't necessarily translate from Web 2 to Web 3 very well. Because we don't have that server, there can also be like limited framework support. Some of these frameworks, are not designed for Web 3. And lastly, I think people have performance concerns about decentralized storage in comparison to big players like AWS. So my retort here is, why not decentralize with Skynet? A little bit of a shill, but for Web 2 patterns not translating, that's still true. But if we have performant user-controlled data that is like cross-ecosystem and has decentralized user identity, we can have web apps have user data that doesn't need that single backend server. In terms of limited framework support, Skynet supports Gatsby, React, Router, Vue, and any kind of dynamically routed client-side framework. And for performance concerns, I'm not going to bore everyone with them, but you saw me interacting with Skynet, and you'll see me doing it some more, and it's all good. Okay, so our goal for what we're trying to do is create a world where any developer can build a Web3 app that anyone can use. We don't want your users to have crazy software or cryptocurrencies or anything else just to access your front end. These should be easy and accessible, but also decentralized. So these are kind of things that we have to weigh out. So I hope to not bore the non-developers in the room, but I'm sure some of you, your minds are already racing. If our web app is immutable, if we can't update those things, how are we going to get our users on the latest version of the app, right? We update our apps all the time. Well, for that, I have a story here. We have our friendly user, and our friendly user loves this website called Daily Builds that is deployed to Skynet. And so Tuesday's build has a Skylink, which is a URL that our user can use to access Tuesday's build. They're happy, they love Tuesday's build. Wednesday comes around, the developer team releases Wednesday's build, and they introduce dark mode. Everyone's excited, but our poor user doesn't have the URL. They don't have that immutable fingerprint for the new website. Okay, so this is kind of a problem. Well, as developers, we come up with solutions to these kind of problems. And so in the Skynet ecosystem, we have resolver Skylinks. IPFS has something called IPNS. But what these do is allow us to, as a developer team, change where a certain URL points to, still in these decentralized ecosystems. And so our user has our resolver Skylink, and on Tuesday, everything's good. They still have that same URL on Wednesday. The developer team signs that we're going to now point to Wednesday's build. Everyone's still happy. Everyone is still happy except for real-world users, which don't like crazy-looking URLs. And so then we put a human-readable name instead, and we point that to our resolver Skylink or our IPNS record. And so this could be traditional DNS, it could be ENS, it could be Handshake. All of these are compatible with our decentralized structures here. Okay, look, we solved the problem. Decentralized hosting is wonderful. No, hopefully we have a lot of cynics in the room that say all those things that you talked about that were issues with the centralized model still exist here. Well, let's take a look and see why that is. Thursday comes around. Malware, developers have gone rogue. Worst of all, dark mode has been removed from the application. Our developers have an automated build pipeline, so whenever they push their code, that resolver Skylink automatically gets pointed to that latest malicious bad build. And our user has only ever known about dailybuilds.com and dailybuilds.eth, so they know that they don't like this new version of the website, but they don't have the Skylinks to go back to the old immutable versions. And so this is we see as a problem, and we want to fix that. So we made a product called Homescreen. What Homescreen allows you to do is take decentralized web applications, sign in with your Skynet credentials, and you are able to pin these to your personal decentralized cloud. So what that means is that when I want to access, say, 1inch, who deploys onto Skynet, I can save them as an app in my home screen, and I can always, when I download that thing, when I download it to home screen, I'm going and grabbing all the assets. I'm grabbing the JavaScript, the HTML, the CSS, and saving that in my personal cloud so I always have a copy of it. And then at any point in time, I'm free to upgrade, or later on, free to downgrade. Okay, a lot of talk. Let's see what this looks like in action. I will go to our decentralized web app here, which is called Homescreen. And I'm not signed in. I will authenticate with MySky. This is happening all in the browser. This is permissionless. And I'll need a seed phrase, so I'm just going to sign up. And here's my really secure way of broadcasting it to the world. So I now have a MySky account, good to go, and here is Homescreen. And keep in mind while I'm using this, every single interaction that I'm doing is saving this application data to decentralized storage. So this is available instantly across any portal and on any device. So here I am on home screen. Earlier I deployed my app to Skynet, and I want to save a copy of that. So here I can save to home screen my Hello ETH Denver app. And when I click save, the portal will then go grab all of those assets, save a copy of them in my personalized storage, add the record here on home screen, and I'm good to go. Okay, and now I can click on that. There we are. Okay, we also have other interesting features here. I mentioned 1inch. Let's check to see if the 1inch team has rolled out updates since this old one. It has. So I can update it, and again, I will go grab all the assets, save it to my personalized storage, and depending on if you're on hotel Wi-Fi or not, sometimes, okay, there we go. And now we're all good to go with the latest version of 1inch. Then I'm able to, at any time, downgrade to an older version, save, and if 1inch takes down their website, it gets blocked in the United States, whatever else, I always have my copy right here that I can access through any Skynet portal. Okay, and lastly, I just want to throw out Uniswap. They deployed IPFS, that's okay. We can still add them to our home screen. Unfortunately, we won't have the upgrade capabilities, but it's still nice to have a copy of old versions of IPFS data. So there's that. Okay, so that is what we view as kind of some of the future looking items for users really controlling their front ends and having full control over those things. We're not done. the question of what's next is always there. We're currently working on fully verified data. So when we access data from a portal, we do all the cryptographic guarantees without any special software, all in the browser. And if the portal lies to us, it's easy in the background, without our users interacting, to go jump to another portal that's not a bad actor, and it all just happens without our user really knowing. All right, if you're interested in this, if you're a developer looking to, create your hack, consider decentralized front ends and consider Homescreen. Really, you have to deploy an app to Skynet, copy paste to GitHub action, and then you have that resolver Skylink. There's a metadata file that you paste it into, and then from then on out, your user Homescreen will always know where updates will publish. So here's 2 URLs to check out if you want to get started. This one is that Create React app with the minimal changes needed to get Homescreen working. All right, also if you're a hacker and you do this, we've got split between virtual and in-person hacks. We have a bounty for $500 for each. Check out our developer guide, our support stuff. We have a JavaScript SDK for deeper Skynet integration. Please join our Discord, where we have tons of really knowledgeable developers that are really generous with their time and knowledge. And I would love to answer questions about decentralized storage or decentralized front ends.